Hey guys, so today I wanted to go over some kiting and movement options for the Vanguard. The Vanguard's actually pretty cool in that it's kind of this melee and ranged hybrid. So obviously, because in this game there is no minimum range to the majority of your damage skills, you'll be doing the most damage as a Vanguard if you're in melee range. But in PvP, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take advantage of the weak spots of the other classes that you're fighting. Um, so I feel like this is going to be really important if you're going to play the Vanguard at a high level in PvP, and these are kind of basic things that you can carry over in any MMO. So if we start with just some basic, you know, movement ideas, then you can kind of get an idea of why people do the things that they do. So the first thing is if you just look at how any class moves, right? If you're running forward, let's say that's 100% speed, and I have sprint off right now just so there's no dramatic change in speed when I get into combat. So moving forward is 100% speed, strafing left to right. You'll also be moving at 100% speed, but when you're backpedaling, you're going to be moving at a much slower speed than you would normally run at. So basically what this means is that you should always be moving forward or strafing, and you should never be backpedaling in PvP. Well, most of the time you shouldn't backpedal. There's probably a few specific times that you can backpedal, and that's specifically when you're fighting classes that have positional requirements. But you know, we won't get into that today. So basically, you're just going to want to always practice, you know, whenever you're running away, instead of backpedaling from the mob, you're going to want to turn and strafe. This lets you move at full speed. This is very important in PvP, obviously. So I guess we'll start with one of the movement options that was my favorite way of kiting in WoW, and which actually doesn't work very well with the Vanguard at all. And that is basically doing a jump, 180 spin, and turning back. In most games that you play, actually, you'll notice that when you jump, it carries the momentum that you were moving in before the jump, and this lets you do things like turn in the air and you know, fire off a skill, and then turn back before you land, and this makes sure that you don't actually lose any forward momentum at all. So what this allows you to do is basically, if you're kiting a mob like this, right? Then you could jump, turn, shoot, and then turn back without losing any speed at all. So the reason this worked well in other games is, let's say the shaman his snare is insta-cast, it's ranged, and it also has a cooldown. It doesn't work too well with the Vanguard because most of the time you're going to want to be spamming hammer shot just to kind of do a little bit of damage, try and proc a snare. And it's just not really feasible to do a jump spin every global cooldown, which is 1.5 seconds. So it's still a good thing to practice. Sometimes when I'm just running along the road, I'll just do a little jump spin like this, and just to kind of get used to it. You're going to want to tweak your mouse sensitivity and stuff like that to it's something that's comfortable, something sensitive enough that you can do this easily, but have very little wrist movement. So the basic gist of it kind of looks like this. Simple enough, right? So I think the best way to be moving with this class is something that I think most people do, is just taking advantage of the fact that your line of sight is really in a 180 arc around your guy, so you can be side strafing away from the mob, also moving at full speed, and you'll still be able to shoot. This is pretty easy to do as long as your hotkeys are set up correctly, right? So basically it just looks something like this. And you can also circle strafe around the guy, right? This lets you adjust your range easily. Like you could see that when I strafe this way, as long as I move in a circle, I can, if I move in a straight line away, if he's snared, I'll be increasing my distance, and if I turn into the guy a little bit, you know, you can stay within, you know, what people call the dead zone, you know, which some classes have. The only issue with that one that I've found is I have a preference to strafe left, and most of my keybinds are set up that way that my instas are hit using my index finger. The only thing is when I want to hit skills when I'm strafing left that require my ring finger, you know, that's a little more difficult to do. Wasn't an issue before because, like I said, I used to do the jump 180 spin a lot, but in this game strafing feels a little bit more responsive, so you can kind of combine the two skills, right? What you could do is you can strafe and then you can jump and throw a skill, right? And I threw my grenade there because that actually requires my ring finger to hit, so it's kind of a combination of two skills. Another thing you can actually do is if you're strafing away, you can flip the mouse 180 and then hit the other button right then, and then you can hit your skill with the finger that you were strafing with before, and you can flip back and forth, right? That probably feels a little bit like you might lose some speed. So one other thing that I wanted to show was basically, if anyone's played a melee class, you know, then they fought against any caster, they'll know this trick. Basically, you know, since in PvP in this game you don't have auto turn, what you can do is when someone is hard casting in your face, what you can do is you can kind of move through them at the last second and try and interrupt their cast. They'll get a message that says, you know, you must be facing your target. And one great way to do that is actually to simply jump through the target the last second, spin, you know, do a 180 spin, fire off your skill, and then you know, you can either keep moving if it's a melee class, and if the melee class isn't using their mouse to turn, they'll take a very long time to turn and follow you. Or if it's a caster and you've timed it correctly, you'll actually interrupt their spell. So it's you know, it's a pretty good skill to learn against any class that you PvP against. And you know, with the Vanguard, if you're a shield guard spec, you're going to want to stock strike when you jump through them. So this, you know, sets you up to get a snare on the guy if you want to kite him. It also lets you do some pretty good damage from the back if there's, you know, avoidance skills that are front only. And you know, also lets you interrupt spells. So basically, you know, it just looks pretty much something like this, where you just jump through, stock strike, and then you just keep running. And I actually missed that one. So the animation's a little bit strange on stock strike, but you know, something like Hammer, you can kind of see that better, right? So basically that's it, and you know, that's really the big thing about this class is you have a lot of options from ranged and melee. And you know, if this helps anybody, let me know. Great, thanks guys.